I've seen quite a lot of positive benefit from that. And the research shows can reduce pain, decrease blood pressure, improve mood. So there's quite a bit of data behind that. And the second practice, which has hypothetical reasoning, is proposed by Dr. Stanley Rosenberg, and it's based on the polyvagal theory. So that vagus nerve, the one that helps us move into rest and digest, away from fight or flight. So that long vagus nerve, we can use body movements to activate it. We can also use humming and singing, but one of the most reliable ones that I found is placing the hands clasped like this on the back of the head with the thumbs on the neck, letting the shoulders drop down, and then taking the eyes from the center position and looking to the one elbow for about 30 to 60 seconds, and then shifting to the other elbow for another 30 to 60 seconds. That lateral eye movement is connected to the vagus nerve. And if you think about it from a mental perspective, when you are safe enough to look laterally instead of what's in front of you causing you chaos and fright, when you are open enough with the people around you and the situation around you to put your elbows and shoulders more open and open up the chest, that's a signal to the body and that nerve that it's okay here right now.
I love that. I love that. It reminds me of two other bits. I do this fascia program, which is really, really powerful and also very painful at times, but it's intentional, deliberate pain, and it's always localized on the area. So it's something that can be breathed through. But the instructor, she says, smile when you're doing this process because you're actually sending a message to the brain that everything's fine. Like the pain is not harming me. Yes, I acknowledge the pain, but it's not harming me. And I love that because I think that that's such a simple one that we can do. What I love that you're offering here is what happens within the body when we're doing these very simple things like these movements, and lateral eye movements sends a signal to the brain that everything's fine. Like you have the luxury of looking around, so you're not in danger. There's another study I was recently looking at that was talking about bird song and how playing bird songs and bird calls actually is also very, very soothing to the body because the mind understands that if birds are calling, there's no predators in the area. So that is also a natural trigger to the system that everything's fine. And then the breath piece, I think, is huge because what I have come to understand is when I'm in control of the breath, that actually is short-circuiting the panic response. When I am mindful and in control of the breath, I'm essentially saying to all of my parts, like, everything's fine. I know you think we're about to turn over this engine of anxiety, but we're actually not. We're fine. And it takes a minute for all the systems to kind of reverse and subside, but it does happen. It does work.
Yeah. And it's something you can access anywhere. It's free, easy to do.
Yes, that's my favorite. Everybody can breathe. And if you can't breathe, then you probably have bigger problems than learning how to soothe
You
your
better be calling
anxiety.
somebody.
Exactly. So if you're watching this video, it doesn't cost you a thing to begin to learn, I say, remember how to monitor and manage the breath. And I find for the breathing thing, because that was another piece that I clued into was where my breath goes. When I'm anxious, like when I'm anxious, it stops and starts here. Like I'm breathing from here. And I was raised by musicians, so I have years of vocal training, so I understand how to use the diaphragm, and I understand what correct breathing is, but it's fascinating how completely without a conscious choice, the breathing goes from deep and easy and relaxed to like short and shallow instantaneously.
Yeah. And those two modes of breathing are connected to that fight or flight and the rest and digest. And as you can control the breath, you can move it towards that rest and digest.
So once people have gotten themselves to a state that's calm and they can think clearly, they're using kind of the full brain as opposed to just the survival brain. How would you share with people how they can begin to document their experience? Like, okay, so I can identify, yes, maybe I have anxiety, chronic or not, or I find myself nervous or anxious, or I'm stressed, to use that general term. And I want to understand it more and manage it. And I think for me, it was, I want to be able to give my body what it needs. That was my main motivation. How can people begin from that place of ease and peace, or at least just connectedness, centeredness? Then what?
Yeah. Well, I liked your explanation of the process of inquiry, if you might go into that, but I also will offer, I like the process of parts work.
Mm.
Um, and another way of describing that system is internal family systems. And there are workbooks out there or professionals who can help you with this, but a simple practice is focusing on the area that you are feeling the sensation you want to learn more about. Maybe it's your stomach is upset at this moment. Giving that stomach, that area, a personality, a color, and how ask it, asking your active imagination, how are you feeling today? What is it you need to tell me? Connecting with that sensation in the body to try to learn more. And it sounds, it is a process of exploration, and you do have to be open to, does my stomach have something to say to me? But the information that comes out of these sessions, these processes, even on your own, can be quite revealing.
I love internal family systems. It's something that I've used with myself. I use it in my practice as well. I find it to be incredibly powerful. And the system of inquiry that I was speaking about, or that I often use, is kind of similar to that. And it's interesting because I didn't know about internal family systems until I think really last year. It came into my awareness, and this practice is something I've been using for, gosh, at least 10 years. And it comes from my retail background, surprisingly, that, when I worked in department stores, in the cosmetics department, because I was a makeup artist, and there's the store manager who's in charge of all of the store. Then there's the department managers who are in charge of their specific department. So every morning, the store manager would have a meeting with all of the department managers. So I basically just took the same model and applied it to myself, because I began to realize, like, oh, okay, so I'm the store manager, right? I'm the one in charge of all of this, lucky me. And I have different departments. And I began to understand, okay, there's a mental awareness, there's a physical awareness, there's an energetic awareness, and there's an emotional awareness. And so I just began my days, and I did this process for several months. And it was kind of concurrent to the chronic pain I was having, but it was also its own practice in and of itself. So I want to offer to people is, you don't need to have a chronic state of anything to do this practice. And what I find, and this is what I try to instill in people all the time, when you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So when you practice and understand what a state of, calm, centered beingness, when you begin to really understand what that feels like for you, because to your point, everyone's baseline is going to be different. When you understand what that feels like for you, then that gives you a place to begin. That gives you a place to start. And when you practice, then when you really need to calm yourself and reach that centered state, because it is a crisis moment or an intense moment, I already know how to do it. The body memory, the muscle memory, neural pathways are already there. So what I started doing is every morning I would sit down and I would get my pen and paper, and I would connect with each of these different layers: mental, emotional, physiological, and energetic. And I would ask, okay, body, you are my physical manager. What do you need today? And again, like we said in our last conversation, the body was easy because its needs were always one or two words: move more, drink more, rest more, eat more, breathe more, whatever. And then asking the mental self, what do you need? And it would tell me about the things that hadn't reconciled. What is it still holding on to? Oh my God, that thing that happened to you when you were 7. Okay, so that gave me some things to do. Same thing with the emotional self and energetic self. And I found that to be incredibly powerful because, number one, it helped me begin to pick apart, like I was saying earlier, things that I thought were emotional, but were really physiological, or vice versa, an old unresolved experience, and the emotionality that I hadn't yet allowed myself to really feel and fully release was still living in the body. And
Mm.
that's what I find to be fascinating about breath work and fascia work. And this, I think, could be a conversation for another topic, is that the body always remembers. It is recording everything, and it's recording it objectively. Our understanding of what might be happening might not be objective, but the body's just going to reflect back what it knows and what it experienced. And that was fascinating to me, to know that, holy crap, here I am in my 40s at the time, and I'm still resolving stuff that I've been hanging on to for 20, 30 years. It's just been waiting, hanging there, like, a VCR on pause, waiting for someone to come back in and push play and let it all resolve and complete. So I think that the process of inquiry, it may not make sense at the beginning.